How's everyone doing? This is Woody, and I'm starting a series on alternative ways to use RFID readers. And today we're going to highlight the Boss Cloner. Today we're going to be going over the Boss Cloner. Now, the Boss Cloner is a great piece of kit. If you have one, I highly recommend you use it. The only issue that I had with it, and this is the original Boss Cloner, they've since created a new model that will be released soon, and that one will be able to work in multiple frequencies, and I'm really looking forward to that. I already have an order in for it. The issue that I had with this was the ability to transfer it from board to board and be able to use it. Why do I like this one specifically? Over Bluetooth, there's an app that you can communicate with. It is set up so that it will automatically have this mimic a card that you clone or one in the database, and this will also, if you have a card, write directly to it, and now that card can be used for access. So this is a great piece of kit, highly recommend it. This is the form factor that you get it in roughly. What I want to do is show you how we can change this up a little bit, because what if you don't want to just use this reader? What if maybe you want to hook this up and use some of the features in a 915 megahertz reader, or one of these other readers that I have here, a small reader, a 4100, a 2.4 gig RFID reader. There's a multitude of things that you may want to set up and use this board with. And what we're going to do today is show you how to set this up so that it can be taken care of, traveled with, moved around, and you'll be able to use this with a multitude of boards and figure out how to read the readings that come off of them. So let's begin. The next step that we're going to do is we're going to take the regular form factor for the Boss Cloner Shield, and we're going to move it into something that will be a little bit easier for us to transfer from the different antenna readers that we have. It will also make it easier to travel with and protect some of these parts. Everything that I need: RJ45 jack with terminals that you can do push down connections with. And then I prefer to use just some simple power in or outie plugs. They work really easy, and I like the fact that I can just screw everything in place. I'm a big fan of using Cat 6. It already comes with twisted pairs in it. It's very secure, it's solid. When I used to work on vehicles, putting cameras and microphones in, I could use this with a common ground and be able to have 7 other wires coming back that I could connect other things with. So really good stuff, very versatile. I use it all the time. Now, the biggest point that we need to make sure gets covered when doing this is that these 3 wires here and this block that I have, the connector, is not the one that it normally comes with. Mine got destroyed by TSA a few years ago, so this is actually from one of my drone projects that I have. I have a lot of these extra harnesses, so I used it. The center wire, I don't care about colors, I care about the center wire. The center wire is going to be your data 1. The wire to the outside of the board is going to be your data 0. The wire to the inside of the board is going to be the one that connects to the ground. Now, even when you have the regular wiring harness, this is a red wire, but this is connecting to the ground. Don't let that confuse you. So I'm going to take these. I open up the shield. I just tuck it underneath, make sure I don't pinch anything. And at that point, I'm going to go ahead, connect it nice and firm. Everything's together, good to go. And at this point, I go ahead and I will just push this into my terminal blocks here. I don't really care where these go, because once I set this up, I'm going to use a continuity check to figure out where they come out on the other side. I do the same thing with my power. I take my power connector, And you can see here, I just connect it to some wire, run it through the center of the board, and I connect it to my terminal blocks. Now, when I do that one I do back up with some solder as well. So it makes it pretty simple and easy to be able to go from a board that can be difficult to transfer into multiple platforms to something that's very easy. You can move it around, and now I can take this, I can still put it inside of a reader if I want to, or I can go ahead and have it outside of a reader. And we've actually found where we can get some better distances depending if you have the capabilities of doing it or not by being outside of the reader. That's not always possible in a backpack, but we are getting some extra inches that you'll see when we do the distance testing. Now, the easy part about this is the whole thing goes inside of a project box, fits inside there. All I need to do is make sure that, and I apologize, I know I'm going to mispronounce this, the Harosa connector is open and that the USB mini is open so that you can plug into it. You don't have to worry about the USB micro. You never use this. I just used a Dremel for this, and I use hot glue to hold everything in nice and tight. And now this whole thing is in here nice and secure. I plug it into power. I plug this into the USB so that I can power the board. Now, you can use whatever power supply you really want, as long as you know what's required by the board that you have. I know the board that I have can take up to 28 volts, and that's what I'm going to put in this. But make sure that you've checked that before you start applying power. So I'm going to go to 28 volts. I'm going to go ahead and select it. Okay. I really like this battery pack, unlike some of the others that I've found that have other RF frequencies to them. This one does not have any. Now, over here, I have a board that I've already connected up. I've already done all my pinouts and tests. So now when I plug this in, that's simple. I'm able to actually power the board up. You can see that we're getting good signal. Okay. I get a read, and when we look at the Boss cloner, we can see that sure enough, we got a good read on it. So, if I want to hook another board up, it's as simple as disconnecting and plugging back in. Now, what we're going to do is set up some distance tests and see how far away we can read something. So in this configuration, the Boss cloner is getting good reads. You can see that we have the reader set up inside of the antenna. And now let's look at some of the distances that we're starting to get. So fairly consistent, around 22 to 24, even 24.5 inches with this configuration. Now we're going to change a few things up and see if we can extend that a little. So in this configuration, we have another board that's hooked up. But what we've done is we've actually taken the reader out of it. And as we come up, we match the gauge of the wire used in the antenna itself. And now we're going to see if that actually helps us get any more distance. And what we found is the less you have inside that antenna, the better the distance. As you can see, around 33, 34, even if I'm moving quickly. Now, one of the things with this setup, this may not be the easiest setup if you're trying to do a backpack or a walk by or a brush past. However, if you have the ability to put a static reader up to try to read a hallway because you're trying to get information or get some of this data, taking as much out of the center as you can will help you get those longer reads, and that can make a big difference. So if you have the ability in a static scenario to do this, taking some of the guts out can make a difference. Now we're going to move to a completely different reader, and go ahead and set up the Boss Cloner to read with it. So now we have another reader that's hooked up, and this is a much smaller one. This is a 5355. I've matched the gauge of the coils that are used for the antenna again, and this is the Prox Pro. You can see that we have diameter matched with the antenna itself. The reader has been removed. Now, this doesn't have nearly the range that we had before. However, we're still getting almost a full foot. Now, what's extremely impressive about that is that this reader is not much bigger than the card itself. There's a project called Pone Purse that uses something very similar to this. Just make sure that you're using the Prox Pro that is rated for 28 volts. If you use the Prox Pro 2, it is only rated for 16 volts. We thank you for coming and viewing this. The big thing that we wanted to show was that all of these readers are extremely versatile, and the way that you can configure them are versatile. So you're not stuck with just one antenna. You can really make whatever design you want. We're gonna have more about the Boss Cloner, as well as the Bishop Fox board and many of the other readers that are currently being used. Thank you for your time, and please let me know in the comments any suggestions or things that you'd like to see in the future.